welcome back to another Film Geek video. Today I am ranking all of the new movies I saw in the month of November. Now I know I'm way behind on this video. I generally have these up at the beginning of the month, and here the month of December is almost over. I'm going to be posting my December rankings here soon, and I'm just now getting around to November. And a lot of that has to do with, well, December's been a very busy month. Right at the beginning of the month, some of you loyal subscribers might have noticed that I kind of vanished one weekend. I watched one streaming film right at the beginning of the week and then I was gone. Well, that's because Charming Amy and I came down with some kind of crud. It seemed like some kind of chest infection or something, but it eventually got into my larynx and I could barely talk. And that's where there's still some videos, and even right now, where I don't sound too awful great. It's still not 100% yet. So there was a moment there where I couldn't even record videos so that I could even make this ranking video. And then going out and seeing new movies and getting those videos put up, and not to mention the fact that I do have a full-time day job. I work at a local museum, and currently we're putting on a big Christmas exhibit, and I have been working a lot of extra hours, putting in some more time and all, because the exhibit as well, it's going quite well this year. We're doing pretty good. So, you know, it's not necessarily something I dislike doing. I have a really great time. It's just very difficult for me to get some of these videos done on a timely manner right now because of illness and job. So basically, this is kind of how the way the month is going to go from here on out, okay? I'm only going to be putting up a couple of more movie reviews, new movie reviews. I still have my Sonic the Hedgehog 3 review that I'll be doing, and I'm also going to do a movie that's coming to Max called Juror Number 2, which is basically, let's just say, Clint Eastwood's last film. It had some kind of weird, like very limited theatrical run, and so now it's going to be it's going to be released on Max. I am a subscriber to Max, so I want to check that one out, especially if it is going to be Clint Eastwood's last film, because he's in his early 90s right now, so it's anybody's guess at this point. So anyways, let's get into this whole ranking of November. Now, the way this works is I'm going to go over to the good old internet, and we're going to rank all of these movies that I saw in the month of November from my favorite film to least favorite film. And now, sometimes in these lists, the least favorite films are still perfectly watchable movies. They're not bad movies. This is all just my enjoyment level, completely my opinion. This is not based off of Rotten Tomato, Metacritic, or anything like that. This is just my personal opinion of my personal enjoyment of these films. Oh, and one thing too, I have a question recently where I had someone ask, how is it that I can afford to see so many movies in theaters in each month? Am I being sponsored or something like that? No, quite the opposite. No, I am not sponsored by anybody to go see these movies. I am not a professional movie reviewer, critic, or anything. I'm just a big fan, and I have what's called the AMC A-List. I pay a monthly fee, about $27, $28 after tax, something like that, each month, and I'm able to see 3 new movies in theaters. And let me tell you guys, I try to maximize my usage of my membership, as you can tell by this channel, and it's really given me a great opportunity to go see a lot of films that I don't think I would have seen in theaters, and honestly. So if you are someone who is a huge cinephile, you are in a town with AMC, and they have the A-List program, well guys, you're just a cell phone away from being a YouTuber just like me. So you know what guys, it's enough of me sitting here jibber jabbering on. It is time to head over to that series of tubes that we like to call the internet, because it's time to rank all of the new movies I saw in the month of November 2024. Welcome to the internet, everybody. Let's get this party started, shall we? Now, this month, my 2 first films, my 1 and 2, to be perfectly honest, guys, both of these movies could be number 1. It's just, I went with the genre I love the most, to be perfectly honest. So my number 1 pick of the month of November is Heretic. Heretic tells the story of two young ladies who are Mormons on a mission, and their mission is going around to different houses and spreading the word of the Mormon church. Basically, the way it works is that when kids are around 18, 19, somewhere around there, graduate high school, let's just say that, they go on a year or 2 year long mission where they go around and talk to people and spread the word of their religion and try to get some new members to their church. And in this film, these two young ladies happen upon Hugh Grant. And let's just say this guy has some very interesting views about religion, and he puts these two women through the test of their faith. I really, really enjoyed this movie. The acting in this film was spectacular. Hugh Grant was amazing. The two young women that played the missionaries, they were also outstanding in this film. The story is so well done. It really, really makes you think. This is that type of horror movie that, you know, down the road, you're still thinking about the events and the things that you saw, heard, and witnessed and all on the screen. This movie really gets into your head and makes you think, and that's what I loved about it the most. There's also some really great use of the camera in this film, and again, going back on the acting, Hugh Grant is outstanding as our villain in this story. Not only is he that really fun, charismatic, goofy Hugh Grant, he's also extremely frightening and scary. This guy is unhinged, and you really do not know what his intentions are from beginning to end of this film. It really keeps you guessing on exactly what is going on throughout the entire runtime of this movie. And then the movie ends on a note that may not necessarily be ambiguous, but it does leave things up to your own interpretation of exactly what happens in the final moments of this movie. Guys, if you have not seen Heretic, pardon me. If you have not seen Heretic, definitely check this movie out. It is worth your time. I don't know if it's hit streaming services just yet. I want to say this was an A24 film, so if it is an A24 film, I think all of their movies go to Max, so keep your eyes open for this one, guys, because in all honesty, there is a good chance that this is going to be my #1 horror movie of the year, although again, I'm going to have a tough time fighting this movie out with the film The Substance. I mean, I don't know yet. It's a real tough one for me on this one, guys, because I really, really enjoyed Heretic. Now, I have done full reviews on all of these films that I'm going to talk about, so if you want to see me get a little bit more in-depth of my views and opinions and just how the film was put together, I highly recommend checking out my reviews of these movies, because I might just kind of glaze over these films for time's sake, but anyways, I might not. I might dive into it even more. Who knows? I'm a chatty Cathy sometimes. So that brings me to my second film, and as I was saying, this movie could easily have been my favorite movie of the month of November. However, Heretic exists, and I love horror movies, and you throw in the religious subtext and everything else that goes into that film and just all of it, everything, the way that movie was made, I love it. But so was this movie. This film was super fun. I had a blast. It was just going back to good old-fashioned Hollywood, and that is Wicked. Wicked comes in at #2, but again, it is just barely #2, and that's only because I love horror movies, and that's it. That's the only reason why Heretic is #1. It's my favorite genre. And then Wicked is the film that surprised me the most this year. I was not excited to go see this movie at all. Going into this film, I thought it was going to be just an absolute CGI, big boombastic Hollywood money-a-thon. And that's what I thought. From the trailer, it looked like it was just going to be a bunch of real human beings standing in front of animated films like every fucking Marvel movie that's being made today. But no, this movie blew me away with its gorgeous sets, practical effects, with CGI help, don't get me wrong. But all in all, this movie delivered on the production value. The cinematography was gorgeous. The dance and the musical numbers were fun. It was catchy. I really enjoyed this movie. Now, I do understand that people are going to the films and they get so involved, they get so overwhelmed with emotion that they start singing the songs in this movie. And folks, let's not do that. Let's not sing these songs. Now, there are some theaters that are putting out singing exclusive events. Go to those. Go to those events. Sing to your heart's content. Have fun with your fellow theater nerds. Get your inner theater kid out and let them sing. Just don't do that at the normal film. Don't do that when you just go see this at your local Ma and Pa movie theater. Do not bother those people, because yes, you might have paid for a ticket, but so did they. So let's respect our friends in the cinema, because that's where we go together to experience these films, together to get absorbed and soaked into these films. And believe me, guys, it is very difficult to sit there and soak yourself into a movie when you have somebody next to you going, popular, I want to be popular. It doesn't work, guys. You might be having a blast and having fun and showing your enthusiasm for the film, but you're ruining it for the person next to you. And let's not be that guy. Let's not be that person. Let's expand our theater kid. Let's welcome others into our theater kid love of these types of films. Let's not alienate people. Let's make friends. No alienate, making friends. Okay? Okay, moving on. So yes, Wicked, fantastic film. Loved the look, loved the music, the acting was spectacular. Everything about this film came together to entertain in a magical way. So that brings us to number 3, and we're going back into the realm of darkness with this one. And that is He Never Left. Oh, come on, he never went to the top. Here, come on, god dang it, computer. There we go. Okay, He Never Left, and he needs a drink. Ah, delicioso. Okay, so He Never Left is a slasher film. However, it's not a typical slasher movie. This film feels like it's taking place in the middle of our slasher in Paleface. And let me tell you guys, he is an amazing killer. I really enjoyed the vibe of this slasher. Had a great look, a lot of homage to all of your good old-fashioned horror slashers out there, a lot of Halloween references. The film itself does take place during Halloween, which also gives it that nice vibe because, again, for some odd reason, I don't feel like there's enough horror films that take place during Halloween. In fact, I'm going to sit down one of these days and I'm going to tally up the amount of horror films that take place during Christmas and the amount of horror films that take place during Halloween. And I think Christmas is gonna win. That's just my theory. We're gonna find out one of these days. Maybe next year around the Christmas time, if I have enough time, and around Halloween and all that, we'll figure out exactly how many there are together. But right now, I'm willing to say that there are more Christmas horror than Halloween horror, so it's nice to see a new one coming into the mix. And this film also tries to subvert the slasher genre a little bit by telling two completely different stories at the same time. This movie really tells the story of an ex-con who's staying at this hotel that just so happens to have a slasher doing his slasher stuff at the same time this guy is doing his ex-con stuff. Does that make sense? So you get a story of him mostly, while in the background our slasher is going around committing crimes. I really enjoyed the way the story was told. I just wish that it had a little bit more of the slasher action. And I also like the fact that this seems to be bringing in a new killer into the slasher world, which we need. It is time to bring back some new slashers into this genre, because it seems like things are on the upswing here in the 2020s. We've been getting a lot of solid, good old-fashioned 80s, 90s styled slashers, and this movie is kind of its own thing. As much as it's like those films and it pays homage to those films, it is really the beginning of something very new and different, and I'm really looking forward to what these filmmakers have for us in the future. That brings us to the number 4 spot, and number 4 goes to a very different type of film, and that is the family drama Let Go. This movie was actually, I did it again, here we go. This movie actually comes from Sweden, and this was, I think, the first movie I reviewed in the month of November. And it tells a story of a dysfunctional family, and the mother of this family, the wife mother, has decided that she wants to try to bring her family back together. Rather than admitting defeat and ending this family in divorce and separation, she wants to try to get this family back on track to being a unit yet again. And the thing I really enjoyed about this movie and why it finds itself in the top, let's just say 5, is because it shows all of the grimy aspects of everything. Each one of our main characters, so you basically have mom, dad, and the oldest sibling. The kid is a kid, all right, whatever. But each one of them has some kind of personal flaw about themselves that they have to overcome by the end of this film. This movie is extremely character driven, and it really gives a very different picture of the modern family and, just some of the choices that we make and what those choices are and how they affect our partners, our children, and so on. I thought this film was a really good deconstruction of the family unit. And I feel even though this movie was from Sweden, here in the States, guys, take notice because this movie, it brings up some very good, valid points in my opinion. Okay, so that brings us to the number 5 film of the month, and that is Going Back into the Darkness yet again, Rita. Now, Rita is an interesting film. It is on Shudder, and I'm going to take another drinky boo again. I don't know if you can tell, my voice is a little scratchy. But Rita is the first film that is a combined effort between Guatemala and Hollywood. And it tells the story of these horrible events that happen at a foster care for young women, for girls. And it's just one of those movies where it's like, okay, so basically this film is not necessarily a horror movie. Even though it's on Shudder, this is more of a dark fantasy. So let me explain. It tells the story of a young girl by the name of Rita. And this girl escapes from her abusive father just to find herself in a worse situation in a Guatemalan government-run foster care for girls. And instead of just being absolutely horrific and just a terrible, horrible human rights type of movie to watch, the film dives more into dark fantasy to try to tell you, kind of make this a little bit more palatable for the audience. Yes, it's telling these horrible, horrendous events. And I guess that's where I should have also led with the fact that this is based off true events. Now, I don't know if the girl Rita is a real person or not, or if these are just stories that are of different young women that went through all of the atrocities in these foster care homes in Guatemala. I'm not sure. But let's just say if you're somebody who's a difficult time watching movies about children who might be put through harm, you might have a really difficult time watching this movie. However, I do believe you should watch it because it's an excellent made film, and for its young cast, you find some excellent, excellent acting. And this movie, yes, it is subtitled, but that's okay, guys. Get through this movie, watch this film. You are really, really going to enjoy the way the story unfolds, and it's like I said, it's a different take on this type of genre by using it as more of a dark fantasy story, like an Alice in Wonderland. So that brings us to our next movie, which is number 6, and we're going back into the world of musicals with Emmanuel Perez. Emmanuel Perez tells the story of 4 very different women and the struggles and tribulations that they're going through in their lives. These women are all also involved in some way, shape, or form with organized crime. Whether they're the victim of their spouse being just caught up in an action, or maybe their spouse was the head of a cartel, these 4 women have their story to tell. And this is also a musical. This is a thriller, musical, comedy, thriller? Did I say thriller? Crime? Film? I mean, this movie basically hits all of the genres as much as it possibly can. And I know there's been some buzz about Golden Globes and so on and so forth for this film. And in all honesty, yeah, sure, okay, why not? Because the performances are really good. This is starring Selena Gomez and Zoe Saldana, and both of these women deliver absolutely phenomenal performances. And I know there's been critique on Selena Gomez and her Spanish and the fact that she learned Spanish only for this movie. She is not familiar with the language. She is not a native speaker of Spanish. And in my opinion, I think that's pretty amazing that she was able to do that. But I also understand where the critique is that by just learning this for the movie, she doesn't necessarily understand the nuance and the cadence of these words to really deliver a full performance in Spanish. But in my opinion, I thought she did a great job. I thought the performances and everything were great. The only thing about this movie that I didn't really care for very much was the musical performances. Not that they ruined the movie, they just kind of didn't need to be there. I think the story itself does a really great job of telling its story. It didn't need the additional music to completely, I guess you would say, push its narrative even more. It already had a very strong performances from its actors and so on and so forth that it really didn't need that music. It doesn't ruin the film, but in my opinion, it didn't add anything to the film. So, let me put it to you this way. Nobody is rushing out to get the soundtrack to Emilia Perez, all right? Maybe Wicked, but not this movie. But I still think it's an extremely solid movie to check out currently on Netflix. So that brings us to number 7. And again, I'm going to have to take a little drink. Again, I'm still recovering. The old voice is shaky, guys. It is a shaky, shaky voice. Okay, so that brings us to number 7. And I honestly can't believe this movie is finding itself so low at the end. And to be perfectly honest, guys, the Legacy sequel has not been doing that great this year. We had Beetlejuice, which was okay. It had some laughs. Okay, it was fine. I mean, that entire movie was Michael Keaton doing Michael Keaton, and that's what made it great. We also had Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. You guys remember that one? Yes, that was 2024. Remember that movie? I bet you don't. You're probably sitting there going, we had a Ghostbusters movie come out? Really? I thought they just re-released the old movies. They actually made another one? Yes, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire is a real movie, and it existed. It's just extremely forgettable. And that's how the Legacy sequels have been going lately. And this movie is no different. Now, while it is absolute popcorn fun, and there are some really amazing performances, mostly out of Denzel Washington, this film doesn't necessarily deliver as much as the first film. And I know we've already had internet YouTube historians beating to pieces the fact that, there were no sharks in the Coliseum. Okay, there's no sharks in the Coliseum. How would they have gotten into the Coliseum anyways? Just shot them down the aqueduct? Just a bunch of bull sharks being shot down the aqueduct. Boy, that's a good time, isn't it? And rhinos in the Coliseum, that didn't happen. They didn't use baboons or whatever those malnutritioned monkeys were. It was just an all-in-all goofball popcorn flick, and I think that's why I didn't like it as much as the first one. It didn't take itself serious enough, but the actors did a great job, and that's why I think this movie's worth watching. Just not necessarily on the big screen, because the CGI was god-fucking awful. The CGI in this movie was ridiculously terrible. Every moment that the CGI was happening looked awful. It just looked awful. Now, I know that this is supposed to be like the heyday of the Coliseum, but it looked like perfect. It looked like a perfect, clean model, and I don't believe it would have looked like that at this point, and I could beat this CGI to death. But the biggest complaint I have is about the next movie I'm about to talk about. And you know what? I forgot to do Gladiator 2 up here, so let's move that. Oh, Gladiator 2. Whoop, whoop, whoop. We're mixing things up. Oh my goodness. There we go. Okay, so why was the water that looked, and why did the water look better in the next film, in a Disney animated film, than it did in Gladiator 2, and that is the next movie, Moana 2. Now, Moana 2 is not terrible. It's just absolutely average and boring. It's going to do what it wants. It's going to do what Disney wants, and that is sell a shitload of toys come this holiday season. This film brought in characters that were absolutely needless, that served only one purpose, and that is to put more plastic crap up on the shelf for you to buy, so your kid opens it up on Christmas and just plays with the goddamn box that stupid toy came in the first place. And that's the only reason this movie exists. But I will tell you one really good thing about this movie. The animators did not get the memo that this was a complete phone-in cash grab movie. The story of this film is bland. It's the same goddamn story as the last one. Let's all hop on a boat and go to an island and stop some kind of big storm or something. I can't even necessarily remember how it all went down. And I saw this movie. So you go to the island, you do your thing, and you're like, sing a song, good times, everybody, let's go home. Moana 2. Sorry for the spoilers and sorry for ruining it. And then they just throw in all these needless characters that don't have to be there, that serve no purpose except to sell more crap. This movie is a complete and absolute Disney cash grab. And I have no issues saying that whatsoever, because it might be painfully average in the story department, but the animators did show up. This movie looks gorgeous. The animation is beautiful. There's so many amazing elements to it. The textures look great. The water animation is better than the water animation that we got in Gladiator 2, a big budget Hollywood film. Well, I guess this was a big budget Hollywood film also, but you know what I mean. One was made for children, and the other one was made for grown adults. And why does the water look better in the children movie? That's all I'm trying to say. Anyways, guys, it's bland, it's boring. Wait till Disney Plus with this one. And in all honesty, guys, from here on out, we're in the painfully average, boring, D-list kind of movies. These are your laundry folders, folks. These are the movies that don't necessarily suck, but they aren't necessarily good. They have their moments where you're like, oh, I think this movie's going to have something, and then they don't. So leading the pack this month is Dear Santa. Now, Dear Santa tells a story of a poor dyslexic child who tries to write a letter to Santa Claus, but instead of writing Santa Claus, he writes Satan. And that letter goes straight up to Satan. And guess what? Satan's played by Jack Black. So here we have it, another Jack Black movie where he runs around, acts like a goofball, and that's it. Except this time it's not animated. This time he's not an animated character running around acting like a goofball saying stupid one-liners. This time he's a live-action human running around doing goofy shit, saying stupid one-liners, and dancing like a goofball on stage. Damn, this man is a one-trick pony these days. Jack Black, please do something, man. Go back to your roots, dude. Watch yourself in the movie Bernie. Go back, watch yourself in the movie Bernie, and go, you know what? I was an actor at one point in time. Yeah, I want you to go back to that. Because I love you, man. I do. I think you're a great actor. I love your comedic performances. And this movie does have its moments. When you're with those kids, I see a glimmer in your eye that makes you think that the old Jack Black is back. What was it again? School of Rock. School of Rock Jack Black is back. But no, it's still not quite there. You're still kind of phoning it in a little bit, but there's some good moments. The kids in this film were outstanding. I thought they delivered great performances for their age group. They did a good job with a terrible script. This film starts off very strong, and then we get to the third act, and they don't know what to fucking do at this point. The movie does not know how to end, and it just ends on such a weird, strange tone for this film that it almost ruins the entire movie. But if you just watch the first, hour, 10 minutes of this movie, you might actually have some fun because it's silly, it's goofy, it's fun. Jack Black isn't terrible, he's just Jack Black. The kids are funny, they have a good time. There's a funny moment with, what's his name, Post Malone. So, all in all, it's not terrible, but it's not good either. And that's the exact same problem with the next movie, and that is Nutcrackers. And wouldn't you know it, it's also another one of those lead comedic actors from the early 2000s that used to be the big man on campus, and he hasn't done anything leading for a while. Not that that's a bad thing, because I've heard he's on a TV show, and he's doing really awesome on that TV show. I just can't remember the name of it. It also has Adam Scott. That looks pretty cool. It's on Apple. For some reason, I'm not drawing it in my head, but it's not that he's bad. It's just this script was bad. This movie itself was poorly put together, and I'm drawing a blank on the gentleman's name, but he also directed the new Halloween films. And this, if you don't like those Halloween films, you're probably not going to like this movie, because it's the same thing. It's an actor or a director who doesn't necessarily understand the genre that he's making, and he's trying to deliver a comedy, which he's done in the past, which have been good. But anyways, it just fails. It focuses more on being a dramedy, which is fine. But then it's like, oh wait, we got to throw in some goofy physical humor like the good old days of Ben Stiller movies, like Meet the Fockers and Meet the Parents and Zoolander and, you know, the classics. We got to throw something in there like that and be all goofy. And it didn't meet the tone of the film. And in all honesty, guys, if they would have just went ahead and been a sickly sweet freaking Hallmark film, I think I would have liked this movie more, because it is excruciatingly predictable. I mean, okay, I haven't even given you the plot. So Nutcrackers tells the story of a high business, high octane kind of business guy. He's in real estate, played by Ben Stiller. And I will say the nice thing is they don't make him a complete and absolute asshole. He's actually a tolerable human being. He's just not equipped to be a guardian of 4 kids. So the way it works is that Ben Stiller finds out that his sister has passed away, and she has 4 children, 4 boys of different ages. And he doesn't see himself as a suitable guardian. So he decides to help out social services, find suitable guardians for these kids, and well, holiday shenanigans ensue. You can see where this film is going by me just giving you the plot. And to be honest, if they wouldn't have tried to throw in goofy, silly humor, I would have enjoyed this movie. It would have been just a stupid, sickly, sweet holiday film that, you know, like that freaking fruitcake that you give away every year. It's just that. It's just that old, typical fruitcake that you chow down on every holiday year, because that's just what you do. It's Christmas. You eat fruitcake and figgy pudding and shit like that. And that's Nutcrackers. It's just that. It's there. It exists. It's just there. Throw it on wrapping presents. It'll be all right. Whatever. Next up is another movie that suffers from the same thing, and that is bland, boring. What the hell is that? Black Cab. Oh, Black Cab. Oh, Black Cab. Oh, Black Cab. But what terrible movie you delivered. Oh, I tried, didn't I? So Black Cab is the latest Nick Frost-led Shudder film. There's another one coming out that looks like it. Hopefully it's going to be better. But anywho, this movie tells the story of a young couple that get into a cab, and the cab driver, who is played by Nick Frost, takes them down a haunted road. And that's what it is. They go down a haunted road, and there's ghosts, and ghosts do ghost shit, and ghosts show up and possess and ghost shit. Yep, it's a ghost movie. And have I mentioned there are ghosts in this movie? This film is very boring, it's very bland, and then in the last 10 minutes of this movie, it just kind of gets wackadoodle. I had to actually go back and rewind the last 10 minutes, because I'm like, that was it? That was the end? Did I miss something? Because the movie's boring, so I had a bad habit of reaching for my cell phone and going through the social medias and whatnots while I was watching this movie, so I thought I missed something. I rewound it, watched the last 10 minutes again, and no, I didn't know how the fuck it is. It just ends. Shit happens, and it's like, there you go, movie, done. Moving on. It was not a good film. It's not a horrible film. There are its moments, but I honestly can't remember much about this movie. I just saw it last month. I don't remember a whole lot. So in that case, it's at the bottom of the list. Now, it's not the worst movie I saw in November. And the reason why this next movie finds itself at the very bottom of the list is because the amount of pedigree that went into this film. There is some big names attached to this movie. I'm not going to name them. I'm not going to name them. People who have worked on really big name movies like Shrek, Pixar films like Bugs Life, Cars. The list goes on. these people made the foundation of CGI animation. And they delivered the worst movie of November, and that is Spellbound. Spellbound, granted, while at its core had a good message, which I'm going to get to, this film completely fails on all other fronts. The story is boring, it's bland, it doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't need to exist whatsoever, and the animation is the exact same way. From people who have brought you some amazingly well-made films, this movie felt like a complete and absolute garbage fire cash grab. And it's on Netflix, so I don't know exactly how it's a cash grab, but it just was not necessarily a very well-made movie. It's like everybody in this movie, except the voice acting, which I'll get to, just completely phoned in this film. The animation is very bland and normal. It doesn't set itself aside from anything that I've seen anywhere else. The character models are very, again, boring, average. It could be any animation studio whatsoever. It could be anyone. It doesn't have any unique look to it whatsoever. And the story itself is just a typical adventure story that moves from one set piece to another set piece to another set piece that finally delivers its message. And what's really sad about this movie is that I really like the message, because I don't think that kids in the situation that the princess is in this movie get enough representation. Now, in the United States, the average marriage is a 50-50 shot, okay? 50% of marriages in the United States end in divorce. And I know this film gets a lot of crap about normalizing divorce, but I do believe that us adults are the ones who normalized divorce. Okay? This movie didn't do it. This movie is just trying to give an outlet for those kids to understand that what they're going through is not abnormal. And in today's world, it's pretty freaking normal. And I think the movie did a decent job of delivering the idea that it's perfectly fine and you will still have a perfectly good family that love you and care about you, even if they live in two separate houses. And because this movie meant that and it had that great core message, it just ruins so much that the film is so painfully average. Except the voice acting. The film does have a very great cast, and each one of these cast members do show up and deliver very good performances for the extremely limited script that they were handed. So all in all, unfortunately, this is a film that is so boring and bland, I don't think any kid would really enjoy it. Nothing really exciting happens until the very end of the movie. There's no real humor, and the songs, I just now remembered, there's songs in this movie. Yeah, they're bad. They're boring. They don't stick with you. So yeah, guys, there you have it. There is the month of November in a nutshell, and I know, I'm sorry I got this to you so late, and it seems like I will be putting up my rankings for December here soon, and of course my rankings like the best of, worst of, and best of horror movies of 2024. But I'm going to do it a little bit different. You'll see when I get there. But okay, guys, thanks again for checking out The Film Geek. If you liked what you saw here today, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications, and give me the old thumbs up so I know you like what you're seeing. And if there's one more thing you could do, folks, that is keep watching movies. You know I'm gonna.